You'll notice that there is a bit of bright light off to my left this morning as Elvis and Bridget are back. Say hello. So Elvis will be interning with us this summer, starting this week, so you can look forward to seeing them around all summer. We're in the middle of this series called The Way, Training to Be Like Jesus. We're trying to get our heads around how do we do this thing that Jesus says to come and follow me. And the first step that we want to talk about today, at least, is being with Jesus. So I want to start this morning by reading a fairly long passage, a familiar metaphor that you probably have heard before. From John chapter 15, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. And I've told you all this so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. Sometimes people can be a lot, right? A long time ago, I read a book by Gordon MacDonald, and he talked about the various types of people that are in our lives. In particular, he talked about two different groups of people. People who are life-giving to us and people who are life-draining. You know those people, right? You can probably think of someone in your life right now who drains you. Maybe that's a coworker who complains nonstop, or a friend who only takes and takes and takes and never gives, a family member who is steeped in negativity, and their presence leaves you exhausted. And it's like your phone battery is blinking, 1%, 1%, 1%. And it's in those moments when we have to find those people who are life-giving to us. Think of those people now in your head. A mentor, perhaps, whose wisdom energizes you. Maybe a friend whose joy is contagious. A spouse who listens deeply to you. When you are with these people, you leave their presence feeling full and you're ready to face the world. And a big part of our lives is just trying to manage who and what is life-giving and who is life-draining. And when we get that balance wrong, our whole life feels the impact. Jesus, on the night before his crucifixion, looked at his disciples and said, I am the true vine. In a world full of draining and dead-end relationships, he offered himself as the ultimate source of life. But this wasn't just a metaphor for his disciples. It was a survival plan. When we look at John chapter 15, we recognize that it comes right in the middle of John 13 to 17. That's a numbers thing for those who missed that already. But that whole section of chapters is spoken just hours before Jesus is arrested. The disciples didn't know what was going to happen to them. But their next couple of days would be the worst days they had ever experienced in their lives, because Jesus was going to die. So you followed this guy all around for 3 years, and suddenly he is going to be gone. And so as Jesus is saying the words of John 13 to 17, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of confusion. Jesus knew that storms were coming. There would be persecution. There would be doubt. There would be the temptation for the disciples to say, I'm out of here, and go back to fishing. And he promised them that he would send the Holy Spirit in his absence. And he anchored them to one word that we've seen several times today. It's repeated 11 times in 17 verses in chapter 15. The Greek word is meno. It means abide, as we've been singing, but also remain in, which we've seen in our translation, or maybe it's better for you to think of staying connected. So for the disciples, this wasn't some sort of abstract theology. This was their life. Jesus was saying, when I'm gone, you're going to feel like branches that have been cut off, abandoned, the source of life gone from you. But you need to stay joined to me, even though that's how you feel. Jesus says, my life will still flow through me. So meno isn't a passive sort of, just hang in there and wait till it's done. It's active. It's a resilient connection. It's like a branch is gripping the vine during a hurricane. And Jesus' repetition of these words says that abiding is the only way that you are going to survive what's coming. It is the only way that you are going to bear fruit that lasts. And this is what we know. The time to prepare for the storm is not in the middle of the storm. The time to prepare is long before it. It is now. It is today when we prepare. Because you and I face our own storms that are coming. Some that we're in, but some that are coming. Burnout, loneliness, illness, job losses, and more are coming to us. And yet we scroll mindlessly, we chase money and achievements, and then we wonder, why do our souls feel hollow? And Jesus' answer is, abide in me. So connection to Jesus for us isn't a luxury. It's the difference between a life that is withering and dying and a life that is thriving and bears fruit. And when we say fruit, we're not talking about more followers or programs, and especially not more busyness. Jesus says, by this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so you prove to be my disciples. How do you prove that you are disciples? You become like him, filled with love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and self-control, as Paul will say in Galatians chapter 5. It's the quiet transformation of becoming people who look like their master, who look like Jesus. And so because we know the storms are coming, how do we get ready? Jesus says, you abide, you stay connected. Well, I was teaching this section in my class this week, and I asked the students to tell me what does it mean to abide? And so they were in groups, and I remember particularly this one lady, she was giving rather abstract ideas, more like abide, stay connected, be like Jesus. And the woman beside her was saying, but how? But how? But how? And everything she came up with was vaguer and vaguer. But how? So we're going to try to avoid that. How do we meno? How do we stay connected to Jesus in a world that is very distracting, somewhat like these fans? The first thing is that abiding requires a recognition of our dependence. Jesus says, apart from me, you can do nothing. The first truth about connection that Jesus reveals is its absolute necessity. The branch has no life by itself. It cannot photosynthesize, it cannot bear fruit, it can't even actually survive apart from the vine. You remember those, well, probably all of you have experienced this, the flowers that you bring your mother in the spring. You take the dandelions, you gather them up, and you put them in a little jar of water, and within seconds they're dead. Which, normally speaking, that's a good thing, but not for your flower, for your mother. The connection, Jesus says, is not an optional thing. It's essential to your life. Jesus doesn't say, oh, we can do a little bit without him, or that we'll just be less effective without him. He says, we can do nothing. Zero. That's not hyperbole. That's a spiritual reality. When you and I disconnect from Jesus, we die. And so it's not about working harder as if we could stay connected by just trying harder. But as John Mark Comer writes, the branch doesn't strive or stress or worry about producing fruit. It just abides. So when do we often pray? When we're at the end of our rope, right? When all of our efforts have failed, when we figure out what we should have known at the beginning, that without Jesus, we are in big trouble. We need him, or we die. But the thing about Jesus is he's not hard to find. Richard Rohr tells us we cannot attain the presence of God because we're already in the presence of God. What's absent from our lives and why we feel disconnected is a lack of awareness. The issue is not where can we find God or where is God? He's already here. So let's stop praying the I can do it myself game. I can't do it myself. When I am disconnected from Jesus, I will die. And the sooner that you and I acknowledge that reality, the sooner we find life. Abiding requires an awareness of our dependence. And secondly, abiding is going to require focused attention. As I was writing this sermon, I had this thing sitting beside me. Oh, it's already there. And it's constantly lighting up with notifications, isn't it? Even when it's sitting beside me, I can feel it. Billy, someone needs something. I have an email. Oh, good. Look, junk. Or I have a number I don't know who called me. Junk. Or I have a game telling me, hey, you can come and click some more. Very exciting. It's like spiritual pop-up ads that steal our gaze from Jesus. Here's the reality of our situation. We are facing a battle for our attention. In the late 1960s, there was a psychologist and economist named Herbert Simon. He coined this phrase, the attention economy. He argued that attention was the bottleneck of human thought. That is, that our capacity for attention within us is limited. our capacity limits our ability to perceive in stimulating environments, so light, sound, noise, thoughts, and it limits then what we can do. He said, we have a wealth of information, and that creates a poverty of attention. There's just too much. He was the first one that suggested probably that multitasking is a myth. It's not a real thing. You can't do it. And what the brain research of the last couple decades in particular has been telling us that's the way it is. We can't do that. We're constantly switching very fast, but we're not actually able to multitask. What's interesting about that is how he wrote that in the late 1960s. He knew nothing about what we face today in terms of distractions. He had no idea of the incredible technological changes that the world would go through in the next 50 years. So physicist Michael Goldberger kind of sums it up well. He says, information for us is not scarce. Attention is. Have any of you, like me, gone to the internet this week and you go to the internet to find an answer to your question, right? I have a question, I ask Google, and then I find myself captured by the rabbit holes that are everywhere. Oh, that's interesting. That's weird. Oh, that looks yummy. And there's another link and another link and another video that looks funny, and all of a sudden an hour has passed and you still don't have the answer to your question. And once you and I get interrupted, it's incredibly difficult for us to return to our original task. Some studies report that it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds for you to get back on track once you have been distracted. In the book Hooked, How to Build Habit-Forming Products, this is what Nir Eyal writes. When you're feeling uncertain, before you ask why you're uncertain, you Google. When you're lonely, before you're even conscious of feeling it, you go to Facebook. Before you even know you're bored, you're on YouTube. Nothing tells you to do these things. The users trigger themselves. Jesus says, remain in me. And yet studies have shown that the average person checks their phone 144 times daily. Our attention has become the focus of the new internet-driven economy. Tim Wu says, the attention economy commodifies our moments, selling our focus to the highest bidder. Who can get our attention? That's what businesses are competing for. As a result of the world that we live in, that means that we have to constantly be returning to the presence of God in our lives. We have to figure out how to make it a habit. Paul called this praying without ceasing. A.W. Tozer called it habitual conscious communion with God. But at the heart of the Christian message is that God himself is waiting for his redeemed children to push into conscious awareness of his presence. And throughout Christian history, our greatest spiritual writers and thinkers have struggled with how do we make abiding a constant in our lives. So they've suggested things like set hourly reminders to pause and acknowledge God's presence. Practice breath prayers, that is, short prayers that synchronize with your breathing. Turn routine tasks into opportunities for communion with God. One of the most famous is Brother Lawrence, a monk who worked in the kitchen, and he called this practicing the presence of God, trying to turn every second and moment into potential communion. He says, I have abandoned all particular forms of devotion, all prayer techniques. My only prayer practice is attention. I carry on a habitual, silent, and secret conversation with God that fills me with overwhelming joy. This old Celtic prayer captures this idea of bringing Jesus with you everywhere we go, inviting him into whatever you're doing. So I want to invite you to read this aloud with me. Oh, that's not there. There we go. Christ with me, Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ in me, Christ beneath me, Christ above me, Christ on my right, Christ on my left, Christ when I lie down, Christ when I sit down, Christ in the heart of everyone who thinks of me, Christ in the mouth of everyone who speaks of me, Christ in the eye that sees me, Christ in the ear that hears me. Abiding requires focused attention and finally time. Listen to these words from A.W. Tozer. It is well that we accept the hard truth now. The man who would know God, or the woman, must give time to him. He must count no time wasted which is spent in the cultivation of his acquaintance. Time is not merely the ticking of a clock or the turning of calendar pages. Time is life, our most precious and irreplaceable gift. How we spend our time is quite literally how we spend our lives. And yet, in a culture that is all about hurry and busyness, time has become an enemy that we need to conquer rather than a gift to steward, a resource to maximize rather than a sacred dimension in which to participate in the life of God. In John 15, Jesus offers a profound invitation that challenges our modern relationship with time. When he says, "Abide in me," he's not suggesting a momentary spiritual practice or an item on a religious checklist that we click off. Abiding suggests dwelling, making our home in, remaining, staying put, a continuous state of being rather than a temporary action. Jesus is inviting us into something different, where he is present always in every moment of every day. Like what Dallas Willard says, God has yet to bless anyone except where they actually are. And if we faithlessly discard situation after situation, moment after moment as not being right, we will simply have no place left in our lives to receive his kingdom into our life. This wisdom reminds us that time is not something separate from our spiritual journey. It's, in fact, the very vehicle through which we experience the divine life of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. In our efficiency-obsessed culture, time is primarily transactional. That is, something we spend or we save or we waste or we invest or we kill. We evaluate moments based on their practical use. And Jesus disrupts this sort of transactional relationship with time by saying, "Abide with me in love. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you, so abide in my love." The connection Jesus offers isn't primarily something functional, but he offers himself. And so the purpose of time with Jesus is not producing something, but communion, being with him. So the obvious question is, what is our time telling us about the priorities in our lives? The author of the book we're using in our small groups, Practicing the Way, has also written another book, which he calls The Relentless Elimination of Hurry. Think about the easy answer you give to someone when we say, "How are you?" Sometimes we say, "Fine." Otherwise we say, "Oh, busy, so busy." And we nod in sage agreement, yeah, me too, so busy. Busyness has become our default answer, but it's not a virtue. It's a problem, and it will take some serious effort to change it. So let's start small. I'm asking you this week if you can take 10 minutes each day to spend it quietly with God, because I know you have it. Instead of turning on the TV or scrolling in your phone, find a quiet place, put your phone in another room, close your eyes, and just sit in the presence of God. Intentionally give God your time. Nathaniel, can you turn that fan off for me, please? Thank you. So we're going to take a few moments together to do this together. So I invite you now to settle your feet on the floor, close your eyes, and settle into a posture that allows you to be both alert but also relaxed. Begin this morning by becoming aware of your breathing. That's all. Notice the rhythm of your inhale, your exhale. You don't have to control it. Just observe the natural movement of your breath. In and out. In and out. And if your thoughts and emotions are whirling around in your head, that's okay. It's fine. Just acknowledge that they're there. Set them aside. And as you breathe, become aware of time itself. Each breath that you breathe marks a moment of your life. It is given to you as a gift. Time and life are flowing together inseparably. And as he promised, Jesus is here with you. You are right where you need to be. And now bring to mind the image that Jesus offers us in John 15, the vine and the branches. Visualize in your mind a vibrant, flourishing vineyard. It is bathed in golden sunlight. Notice the rich, dark soil that is nourishing the roots, the dew that remains on the grass. There's a gentle breeze flowing through the leaves. Now focus your attention on the strong central vine. See its weathered bark. See its stability, its permanence. This is Jesus, the true vine. And the vine is rooted deeply into the ground of the Father's love. Notice that the vine is not straining or struggling. It is simply receiving and channeling life and love. Now notice where you are in this picture. You are one of the branches connected to this vine. Notice the exact point where you are joined to the vine. There's no gap there. There's no separation. The same life and love that flows through the vine, it flows into the branch. The connection is seamless. It's organic. It's intimate. Can you feel the warmth of the sun on your leaves? This is the Father's love and pleasure resting on you. Not rushing you, not demanding that you produce anything. It is simply delighting in your being as much as you're doing. The same love that the Father has for the Son now embraces you and shines on you. Maybe lift your eyes up, your face up to meet the sun. And simply receive this warming presence without trying to earn it or deserve it. It is God's gift to you. As you bask in the warmth, presence of the sun, become aware of the life-giving sap that flows from the vine into you as a branch. Feel this divine life moving through that connection point and spreading throughout your entire being. As this life flows into you, notice its quality. It carries the very nature of Christ. It brings his peace, his joy, his love. Let it flow through you. Allow yourself to be filled and saturated with this very life of God. And this flow is happening right now, in this very moment. This is not something that you are trying to create or control, but something you just receive. As you look around, you notice now that there is another figure in your vineyard. It is the Father coming as the vine dresser. His presence you receive with joy because his presence is marked with tender attention and perfect patience. He's not rushed. He's not anxious about outcomes. His care unfolds in perfect timing. It is neither too early nor too late. He knows you. He knows exactly what you need right now. So feel his loving gaze resting on you. He sees you with perfect clarity and yet perfect acceptance. As he brings up his tools, let him cut away all the dead branches that are keeping you from growing. Your sin, your pain, your doubts, your sorrows, your disappointments. And as he cuts them gently, let them all fall away at the touch of his hand. Feel how the Father tends this connection between you and the vine with absolute devotion. He has all the time in the world for you. In his economy, no moment with you is wasted or unimportant. You are his beloved. Feel him looking at you in love. He loves you. Feel how natural it is to be a branch. You don't need to strain against time. You don't have to squeeze more productivity from each moment. Your role here is simply to remain connected, receiving life and love as it comes, moment by precious moment. This is where you belong. And now in the imagination of your mind, look around the vineyard. And what do you see? You see all the other branches that are connected to this one vine, just like you. You are part of something much greater and larger than yourself. You are connected not just to the vine, but to all the other branches. And so now just simply rest in the reality that you are loved. Feel the Father's delight in you as a branch that is united with his Son. There is no need to do anything in this moment except receive and abide in his love. As we prepare to conclude this time of prayer, remember that opening your eyes is not going to return you to ordinary time, because all time is sacred when we abide in Christ. Every moment holds the potential for a divine encounter with your Creator. And so carry this awareness with you as you return to your daily activities. The vine remains and will always remain. And you remain in it. When you feel ready, gently open your eyes and bring this sense of connection abiding with you into the present moment and throughout your day. May all of us find strength and comfort in the constant awareness of Christ as we live our lives this week.